Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, all you vault dwellers. This is the BS Buddies podcast. I'm Joe, that's Ian, and today we are going to talk a little bit about the new Fallout series on Amazon Prime. And if you haven't watched it, I recommend it. Even though I'm only 3 episodes in, Ian has watched the whole thing, so we're gonna see where this takes us.
Oh, yes. I would absolutely recommend giving this show a watch. Now, I have to start off by saying that I went into it a little nervous because I'd seen all the chatter online from other people who were big fans of the Fallout series, like myself, and they would just always, oh, blah, 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 they changed this, da-da-da, they did that, da-da-da, so-and-so, and then so I kind of went into it with like the, oh, please don't let this be another series that they beat into the dirt. But I was pleasantly surprised by how well they did with it, and I recommended to Joe to start watching it. And he started watching it, and so far, Joe says that he likes it. He gives it a thumbs up. I mean, there's too many
A blinking
too many
thumbs
puns.
up.
A winking thumbs up.
That's what I meant.
Here's your blinking thumbs up.
Yeah.
This is shortly after the blast has hit the surface and you can't see anything. I can't tell. Is it bigger, or smaller than my thumb?
Hey, I only put 1 skill point in intelligence today, okay? That's it.
Well, that's okay. You just go with the idiot savant perk, and that'll get you through any conversation that you need. No problems.
So, I guess we don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but I do want to point this out just because it's not going to make any sense. It follows 3 main characters: Lucy, who is a vault dweller; Maximus, who is Brotherhood of Steel dude; and the Ghoul. That's all they call him. So we'll be talking about them just so we can just go on a first name basis. Not, oh, this person, I don't want to give it away. Like, that's the 3 main people. So
There will be some spoilers. So if you haven't watched the show, probably I don't want to say skip past this one. Like I told Joe, I'm going to be doing my best to sort of fill in some blanks or some questions that he or any of you guys might have about some of the lore in the Fallout series, because I was a huge nerd. And while everybody else really loved Skyrim and cherished that little gem from Bethesda, I was more of a Fallout kid. And I don't know why, I just sunk down in the rabbit hole. So I've got quite a menagerie of Fallout knowledge to pick from, which I will try and help to explain why some things might be the way they are in the Fallout series without giving away the entire show.
And like I said, I've only watched 3 episodes, so if Ian spoils something later, like I'm in this with you. So I guess let's go character by character. How we're feeling about these characters and what we like, what we don't like. Let's start with Lucy, the Vault Dweller.
Yes. Absolutely. Do you want to give let me hear your first impressions. I know you said you played a little bit of the Fallout series and that you're somewhat familiar with its mechanics, but I guess coming from a fresh pair of eyes, somebody who is not as intrinsically motivated to spend hours reading forums about every single thing Vault-Tec ever did in every one of their vaults, somebody who comes from the other side of that and coming into this going, wow, they did some pretty weird stuff in here. Let me know what your first impressions are.
So for me, like, I know that, I mean, I think with the show coming out, like, my feed has just been, oh, look at all the awful things Vault-Tec has done in the video games with these certain vaults, and I watched a video, and yeah, it's pretty bad. So for me, this is gonna sound probably bad, but my first instinct to Lucy, and hear me out, I'm like, she's really dumb. For me, like, just the way she talks, the way she interacts is just so dumb. And then I have to think, how would I be if I was stuck in a vault with only certain people, and then I try and go up to the surface with people I've never met and try and talk to them? I can barely talk to you sometimes because I just can't speak.
The words just kind of stumble over themselves and then they fall out, and I'm like, that's not what I meant to say at all.
Like, she's definitely intelligent, but the way she's portrayed, I think, kind of is perfect in that sense, because she just sounds so dumb, but she passed all of her stuff. I mean, that's kind of a giveaway, but that's also the intro of the first episode. It makes her out to be super smart. She knows the ins and outs of everything. But as soon as she interacts with someone, it's just
It
sounds so
all
dumb.
it falls away. The best way to put it is she's a very knowledgeable person, but has no idea of the social interaction or etiquette of the outside world after 200 years of radiation tickling everybody's epidermal layer out there up on the surface.
I
Um,
guess I guess a good way to put it is she's book smart but not street smart is the best way to put it.
exactly. Well, and personally, and like I agree with you in that front. They make Lucy, and I think to a greater extent the Vault Dwellers. They kind of show this population. They're almost like grown toddlers, right? Oh, everybody lives all safe in their vault. Let's be nice to each other all the time. Nothing is ever wrong. And then the harsh
Stuff
world of
happens.
reality comes in, and boom, smacks my microphone over, smacks them across the head, and they realize exactly what is going on. But this fits personally for me perfectly in line with the Fallout because one of the things that is described in the Fallout series, for anyone who might not know this, the reason that everything sort of has that 1950s theme feel going on with it is in the Fallout universe. Culturally, America never left the late 50s, early 60s period. And that's why it has sort of the down with communism feel because they are playing on the Red Scare that swept the United States in our own reality back during the early days of the Cold War. And Vault-Tec, and with the purpose of the vaults and the war with China going on in the Fallout series, American propaganda was everywhere. Freedom and democracy, and we are the greatest country, and we will crush
Hell
the commies, and we
divers.
will move forward. Yeah. Do 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 do. And so being in her vault, and as some of you will come to find out, Vault-Tec was doing nasty experiments, and one of the things is that their vault is they are the reclamation vault. They will be the ones to come back to the surface and bring life to the United States or what used to be the United States. So I think it fits their characters perfectly because what else what better group of subjects to work on than a group that solely believes that A, they are the sole repopulators of the greatest country on the planet, and C, nobody else has that job. And so, therefore, you must take great care and great responsibility, the old power and responsibility nonsense. And you can see how down the line that might lead to some odd behaviors, some odd social behaviors for those who might come up to the surface and go, oh, you mean to tell me there's giant roaches and irradiated crabs and what's that big angry looking black bear thing that is no fur on it over there? Yeah, that might cause some cognitive dissonance up in your head about what you've learned while you were down in your little tin can in the ground.
I do like because one of my big questions, which gets like subtly answered in one of the episodes, it's not really a spoiler, I guess. It was just nice to know. Like, I know like the vaults go in the hundreds just with the game series. So I'm like, okay, how are they connected, or are they their own little thing? And in the show, like it just shows a picture and it looks like three of them are connected. So I'm like, oh, that's a nice little thing to know. Before we move on from the Vault Dwellers, unless there's more to add, I want to say I am so happy Moises Arias is in Fallout. If you don't know who that is, he's the little brother of Lucy, in the
Oh,
Fallout. And if you still don't know who I'm talking about, think of Rico from Hannah Montana growing up on Disney Channel.
I've seen some of those memes come out the last few days, and I was never much of a Disney kid growing up, so I didn't even realize that this dude has been in other things outside of Fallout. Granted, it's not that I think that anyone in Fallout has done a bad job by any means. No, no, no. They've all done phenomenal. But I just thought that like, oh, they took a handful of actors that are not your big name A
You're
list.
typical.
Oh, see him everywhere all the time actors. So then to find out that this guy was actually in Hannah Montana, I think he was in Ender's Game. There was another one that he was in that I saw that I can't recall off the top of my head. I was like, oh wow, so this dude's been around the block. So he's got a lot of good acting experience underneath him, and I will say he's a character that grows on you by the end. You might not be a big fan of him right now, but he grows on you by the end.
I just want to say, as soon as I saw him in there, I was a fan of him. Like, it's nice for me because I watch Disney, Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon, so I know a lot of these names. And he was a secondary character on Hannah Montana. But like just seeing like the actors I kind of grew up with, and then just for me, they just fell off, and seeing them come back up and doing like very like mature and still
Bigger
being
roles.
great actors, it felt really good. Like uh,
Yeah.
my my fiance and my roommate, as soon as I saw him, I just started freaking out, and they're like, "What are you? Why?" Um, but
The one side dude that I guess he's just the little brother, and Joe's over there going, "Oh man!"
uh, but so far, I mean, I think his character is. I guess where I'm at, you're kind of getting to know him now, but the way it's going, like I'm a still root for him. Like I'm probably gonna root for him harder.
He's intriguing. I will say that he is an intriguing character. Give him time. Give him time. For anyone out there who might be having their doubts, give him some time. Give him some time. You'll
Don't
see.
doubt my boy. Do we want to go?
um.
Unless
Oh,
you
go ahead.
had anything else to add, I was gonna go on to Maximus.
Yeah, I was gonna say you better move on to Maximus because I have so many things that I can add for days.
Okay. So we'll go to Maximus, who's the second main character that we get introduced to from the Brotherhood of Steel. Ian, do you want to give a brief synopsis of what the Brotherhood of Steel is for those of you who do not know?
Yes. So the Brotherhood of Steel. Now, this is where there's a little bit of a lore disconnect. Not a big one, mind you, and I understand why they did it for storytelling purposes. But the Brotherhood of Steel in the show, you might have noticed, they draw some alignments, or you might see some rituals and performances more akin to what you would think a cult, which, to be honest, the Brotherhood of Steel is a cult. But the weirdly more, I don't know if I want to say particularly religious, but it seems like the religious aspect of the Brotherhood of Steel is being pushed a little more, which is odd because in the games, the Brotherhood of Steel started out as a band of U.S. military personnel who took over a military base that they were guarding in, I believe it was Nevada. And they found out that the United States was experimenting on their own troops. And so they took over this military base. Unbeknownst to them, they just so happened to take it over at the same time that the bombs fell. And once they realized that the world had ended, they were like, well, we've got my unit of guys here. We gathered all our families together. Let's just wander till we find a base and set up shop. And then once they set up shop, they eventually decided that they wanted to find, study, and collect old technology and prevent it from being used in the wrong way, aka the Great War again. And so that's what the Brotherhood of Steel's whole mission is. Now, realistically, in the games, bringing in outside members into the Brotherhood of Steel does not really happen. The Brotherhood is one of those things you have to be born into it to join it. People don't come from the outside because the Brotherhood doesn't really consider them trustworthy. In the show, it's shown more often that the Brotherhood takes in outsiders, and there's a bit more of this. What was like the branding, rite of passage rituals, and all of that. That is kind of from a storytelling standpoint. I understood that, and so that was, I, meh, whatever. However, the rest of it they portrayed fantastically, like the the power armor and all that. I thought they did
I think they
amazing with that.
do a great job with that. For me, I obviously I know a lot of what this stuff is. Not so much the lore, but like the items. And I immediately thought like from Fallout 4, like you can see yourself getting into the armor, and I'm like, I want it to look like that, and I think they
Mhm.
nailed it perfectly.
Oh yeah,
They didn't
they
like do
absolutely.
something weird and like change it up completely. It's like to a T. Like this is what you do in the video game.
Yeah, well, and I saw some people too online. They were complaining about the fact that you'll see in I don't know if you see it in the first 3 episodes, but you'll see it in a later episode where the faceplate hinge can open up and you can see the face of the
I haven't
person who's
seen
behind
that
it.
yet. I don't think.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I saw some people online were complaining about, like, oh, the power armor is supposed to be indestructible, blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, I understand your point. And coming from a video game sense, yeah, why would you have a thin little faceplate? But on the other hand, this is supposed to be actual military equipment that was used in the real world. You would want a way to be able to like lift that up and breathe without having to take your whole helmet off. And so, to me, that was one of those nitpicking things. It's like we don't really need to look over that. But getting to the character of Maximus himself, I think they went with a really interesting choice so far. I'm sure you've seen Joe from his early scenes. His character is not exactly a likable one. Not exactly someone that you're really, really rooting for right from the beginning. He kind of makes some questionable choices that leave you going, come on, dude. Come on. Come on, dude. Come on. However, once again, I still think this plays into the people that you meet in the Fallout universe because it's quite often described how messed up people are. Since the bombs have fallen, since life has evolved on the surface, people do any number of things for any manner of reasons that you can't really know or justify to yourself. And sometimes even the characters themselves can't justify it. So I think, him being who he is kind of fits, and he does grow as the series goes on. So I will say that he, like I said, he's one of those characters that starts off like, but they make improvements on him as you go forward.
I guess where I'm at, like he's he's a person I want to cheer for, but like you said, like it's not there yet. It's just his character seems really weird. It's like he wants to do good, but also he doesn't at the same time. And some of the bad choices, I'll say, I kind of liked. It's like, yeah, he made the right choice. Oh wait, how is he gonna get himself out of the mess? This is kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah, I'm back and forth on the character. I definitely out of the three, he's the one I'm cheering for the least. Out of Lucy, Maximus, and the Ghoul. But
Yeah.
I just don't know how I feel about him quite yet. But definitely, I'm seeing the start of some growth. I guess what I'm really hung up on is I don't know how they're gonna get him out of this situation that he's in without spoiling what happens.
Yeah. It's the best way that I've seen his character described is he struggles with the ideals of knowing what he should do and then being faced with the reality of what he actually needs to do. And I know everybody loves the whole archetype of be a hero no matter the case and win the fight and all that, but sometimes people are not that way. When faced with the actual scenario before them, they fold, they crumble, they run away, even if they're not proud of it. They make the quote wrong decision. And so to me, that was an interesting choice of like, okay, where exactly are they going with his character? And by the end of the show, I think they do they don't do a complete 180 with him. I'll say that. He's not like 100% redeemed by the end of the show. But they've started to steer his character back in a direction where you go, okay, okay, okay. I can get behind what you're doing and why you're doing it. I got you. I got you. I'm there with you the whole time.
I feel like with
So,
that archetype, that you're talking about. Like he's probably the most, thinking about it this way, he's probably the most humanistic hero that you'd
for
that you'd
for
you
living
could
in
think
that
of.
universe. Yeah, for living in that universe and having gone through what he's gone through, which you will find out about. Yeah, he's arguably probably one of the most human characters in the show in terms of the way he behaves. He's the most wastelandish, I should say.
Especially going from like Lucy, which I don't want to explain what she went through, but like there he's kind of like an in between. Like he's been in the Commonwealth, which do you
Hmm.
do you want to explain exactly what that is, or
The
like
Commonwealth of the United States, I will say, for any of our viewers who are watching who are unaware, before the bombs fell, the United States split itself up into 13 commonwealths, where it was essentially like, okay, this little group of states is now together, this little group of states is now together, that little group of states is now together, and yada yada. So the Commonwealth simply refers to like if anyone thinks of Fallout 4, it takes place in Massachusetts. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts is what that was called. So there's just different little collectives of states, and the Commonwealth refers to the area where it's taking place in, that part of the wasteland.
so it's he's definitely like in the Commonwealth, and he's like had these interactions with the Ruffins, but he also wants to do good, but right now like the Ruffins have more of a pull on him. But it's like
Hmm.
he wants to be a hero, but he still has that like animalistic instinct, like I need to fight my way through anything.
He has the ideals to be a hero, but he still has the selfish desire to protect himself and screw anybody else. I'd
Yeah.
say that. That's a good way to sum it up. And, honestly, if you could put it in an alignment chart to match with the Fallout games, Lucy is your uh, good, aka good character type, the one who wants to do good no matter what, no matter who's trying to do her wrong, she wants to help them. Maximus, I believe, he falls about center. He's got great ideals about what he thinks he can do to help people, but he doesn't always end up doing that. He kind of does the wrong thing sometimes. Kind of leaves you, he's a wishy washy gray character you're not really sure how to take. And then that leaves us moving leftward to the ghoul. The ghoul is
And
probably one
my
of the most exciting characters.
right now he's my favorite character. And
I'm
I
sure
think
he's a lot of favorite characters, a lot of people's favorite character.
in the apartment, like that's probably our top character right now. There's so much to unpack with the ghoul. And for those of you who don't know what a ghoul is in the Fallout series, I can answer this one, Ian, for the most part. A ghoul is basically a human that just has suffered from so much radiation poisoning, but they're still alive. So, like, their facial features, like, the ghoul doesn't have a nose, it's just the nostril
Just the
holes.
nasal cavity.
Yeah, that that sounds better. But like all of his like skin and hair is like burned, but he can still walk, talk, move. He like his voice is a little changed, but he is a gunslinging cowboy as well, which makes it so much better.
Oh, yes. Oh, and he does not give two shits about who gets in his way. Oh, he just keeps on moving right on down the line. I like to think of the ghoul in some parts as probably the purest incarnation of the player character, right? He's out to get things done, and he doesn't care one way or another what he has to do to get there. He wants things done now. And if he's got to get his hands dirty to do it, then he's going to get his hands dirty to do it.
As much as I love this character, I don't think we'll be able to talk about him too much without
It's
giving a lot away because there's so much to unpack with this character. Uh, and I don't. I'm gonna say if you haven't watched the series and you don't want anything spoiled, I would click off now because it's hard to explain without this
This is your
first
spoiler line. This is your
spoiler.
spoiler line.
uh, so when you first meet him, he's in the ground with I don't know what kind of like blood packs to keep him somewhat alive, whatever they're called. I don't know if they have a name. But
Probably to
base
keep him fresh nutrients flowing through him.
but basically he's buried and they're like some dudes dug him up and said, "Hey, you're the best bounty hunter." And he's like, "I sure am." Proved it to them. I will just say that. And now
Yeah.
he's like, "Hey, this high bounty target, I'm going to go after him cuz I can and I'm the best." And then through that I almost gave something else away. I won't do that. Uh, but then just throughout the rest of it, it just kind of unpacks his story. And again, I'm only on episode 3 and I'm just starting, like, there's a lot of flashbacks to him and going through his story and how he got here. I don't even know how he got here yet, but it's getting into like the whole Vault Tech
For
kind of
anyone who
things.
might not have figured it out, I'm just going to come out and say it. For anyone who hasn't figured it out, the flashbacks showing the fella from before the bombs, he's the ghoul. They showed you that one pretty early on. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. He is the ghoul, and the reason I will tell you this: the reason he is still alive, and this is not necessarily explained in the show. This is just sort of um,
Is it a
intrinsic
spoiler for me?
knowledge. No, it is not
Okay.
actually a spoiler for you. But the reason that he is still alive so much later is explained in the Fallout series. When a human becomes terribly irradiated, um, the radiation actually turns into healing for them. And instead of harming them, it actually heals them up and it keeps them in better condition. Though now, granted, a lot of radiation will melt their brains and turn them into mush, and that's where you get your feral ghouls, ghouls that have been around for so long and have taken in so much radiation that their higher thinking is gone, their reasoning is gone. They essentially turn into walking, talking zombies, which you will see some of them in the series. Not even talking necessarily, sometimes it's just growling. And the ghoul in the show, our main character, he has not hit that point yet. And I don't know, have they shown him taking his little inhaler deal for you yet?
Yes, I think that's right away in episode 3.
Yeah. So, and this is one of those things that is not a spoiler because they don't necessarily explain very well why he takes that. But what I'm thinking is, from the show's perspective, is that he takes this inhaler drug or whatever to help
It's almost like a
keep him
jet.
kind
Looks like
of
a
it,
jet.
it
Jet is
helps
a
keep
Fallout
him.
item.
Yeah, it helps keep him from succumbing to being a ghoul. I think is what they were going for, and they don't necessarily explain how or why it does it. That's just sort of implied from the interactions you see with his character during the course of the season. So, um, I completely lost my train of thought where I was going to go with that now. I'm turning into a ghoul myself. um, I had something and I lost it now.
That's all
You might have
right.
to take over for me, Joe. I don't know where I was going with that.
I'm only 3 episodes in, and I'm a casual Fallout person. Like, I was trying to pick back up on Fallout the other day because, like, it's getting me hyped again. And then I just kept repeatedly dying in the game, and then I just kind of gave up, and I'm gonna try again later. But I'm very happy with what they're doing in the series as a casual player. And so far, just I mean, I'm impressed. I I give it like a 9 out of 10 right now just because I don't know how to feel about Lucy or Maximus, but I mean their characters make sense. It's just weird watching people interact the way they do.
Indeed. I think it kind of helps lends itself to the story of Fallout because Truly, the thing about Fallout is how wild and wacky and crazy the encounters you can have are. I mean, one of the staple things in the game is just simply the random encounters that you uh, meet as you travel out in the wasteland and play the game. I mean, heck, in Fallout 3, as I was telling you, Joe, there's a little tiny farm up in one corner of the map called the Republic of Dave, where this dude named Dave has just decided that he's seceded from the United States in the year of our Lord 2277, and he runs this little tiny like 2 acre plot. It's like a little farm. He's got his own museum, his own school, his own army, his own whatever, and it's only like him and like six people who live on this little plot of land. And you're like, yeah, dude, you know the war was kind of like blew everything to pieces, right? And he's like, yep, but this is my new republic right here. And he's like, maybe if we're feeling generous, we'll let you become a citizen. And it's just, and so I think what they've done is they've taken some of the weird aspects of Fallout, the stuff that just makes you scratch your head and go, really? And they've encapsulated that and managed to put it into a show. And I'll admit, for first time viewers, people just getting into Fallout, it's probably rather jarring. It's rather jarring to look at this and go, okay, this is definitely a weird story choice. But I think from looking at it of the perspective of Fallout, of somebody who's played the games a lot, they did a really good job of picking three very different and distinct stories, backgrounds, and engagement and bringing it all together in a way that is like you're like, wow, I would not expect those two to correlate, but somehow you've managed to pull that off. And I kind of like that because then it sets the tone, it sets the bar for what to expect. And that way, maybe further down the line, if this show gets a second or maybe third season, they can pull out some really weird stuff and it won't be so off the wall that it just completely ruins the show for everyone. You know what I mean?
My I mentioned when I first started watching it, to make it make sense to my fiance a little bit more. It's like you have the Brotherhood of Steel, the Enclave, and the Raiders mostly, and they're just all against each other. They all hate each other, and then you have these random like super people, like in this case the Ghoul, who's also against everyone, and then the Vault Dwellers just don't know what's going on, so they get to like kind of come on and pick a side. And I think Fallout does a great job with that. It's like they specifically say these main areas, and it's like if you play the games, you understand more, but it's like they all hate each other. They're all against each other. But if you help them, they'll help you.
There's a lot of different factions vying for power, and it leads to some really, really interesting effects when you consider the relation between certain characters and people picking sides in that conflict. But I will have to say, one of the things that makes me chuckle is just in reference to the ghoul. By the way, I don't know if you've seen some of the memes floating around Facebook at all, but there's memes going out there like, fellas, you're out here thinking that you got to be like 6'5" with a strong jawline and perfect hair. Meanwhile, women are out here losing their minds to a radioactive cowboy who's been alive for 200 years, and it's got a picture of the ghoul. And that really made me start thinking. And I turned to my girlfriend and I said, sweetie, probably out there right now are some young women who have never played Fallout, never heard of Fallout, never been any kind of interested in an alternate United States where we went to war with China and we blew up the entire world in the year 2077. They've never had a slightest inkling that that story existed. And now here they are staring at a half man, half zombie, bald dude with sunken eyes and no nose, and they're looking at themselves going, that's not a deal breaker. And I said, there are some girls out there who learned something about themselves when this show came out. There are some young women out there who learned something about themselves when they saw that radioactive cowboy. And
Maybe some
that's
young men too.
all I'm saying. Yeah, maybe some young men out there too. Maybe they learned something about themselves that day.
They realize the bar could get just a little lower.
Just a little lower.
If you could
Just
be a
all depends on what you
gunslinger,
bring to the table.
if you can bring a belt of shotgun shells and precise aim, you can Shoot your
If
way
you've got
into
a
the
slightly
hearts of the.
gravelly voice and just enough of a southern drawl to throw off the horrific look from your disfigured face, well, now, girlie, you might just have yourself a winning ticket.
I haven't been
I
able
don't.
to smell in 200 years, but
I can't smell anything. Yeah, can you imagine the first time he realized his nose was gone? Man, that must have been something else. Just like, do you think it like decayed like slowly, or do you think like one day he just like woke up and he like washed his face off and he felt a, and he like looked in the mirror and it was just gone. He, oh my god! And he like looked down in his sink and it was just there. These are the important questions to
I don't
be
know if I
asking.
want to answer that question. So I think
It's
it's
kind
just
of.
time for quotes.
I think it is time for quotes.
I'll do mine. We're both doing Fallout quotes. I'm doing mine from one of the video games. I don't know which one. I'm just going to read it. To have done the things I have done in the name of progress and healing, it was madness. Which basically sums up Fallout. I think it's
Yeah,
Fallout 3.
sums up everything. I thought you were gonna go with the cheesy war. War never changes.
I thought about it, but did they even say it in the series yet?
They do. They say it at the very last episode.
They're
They
supposed to
did.
say it right away. That's how every game starts.
Nah, no, 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 no. They waited till the very, which I kind of like because honestly, at this point, everybody knows the whole war never changes line. So I kind of like that they did the cheesy, oh, wait until the last episode and let it drop and da da da. But I'm taking my quote from the Ghoul, which honestly applies to the games as well, and is just a general rule of thumb for the Wasteland.
It's
But
also
that is,
it's also
oh,
how I
oh,
play the game specifically.
and that is, thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every goddamn time. If that is, I start playing Fallout, and in about 3 seconds, I see a sign that, ooh, free garbage. What's over here? And then I got to go check it out and completely lost what I was doing. So.
Yeah. But we will end it there. Thank you for BSing with us today. Follow, subscribe, comment, like, whatever to become a bud today. And we will see you next time when I finish season 1.
When we're a little more radioactive.
A little bit.
But until then, take her easy. And don't forget to take a sip from your trusty Vault canteen.
And take a stim pack if you need it.